Hey folks, this is Kalani. Legion was just announced as the next expansion for World of Warcraft, so let's have a look, now that the dust has settled from the hype train just blasting through. Let's have a look at what we can expect from this expansion. So, the setting is South Seas, which a lot of us kind of guessed, but it's actually a lot more to do with the Legion than what most would have suspected. So, the Tomb of Sargeras is going to be the big portal, which is going to be opened to all of these different Legion worlds. Gul'dan got blasted through to Aaahh, apparently, woke up Illidan in the Vault of the Wardens. Not entirely sure where the Wardens are supposed to be, you know, that's their vault, they're supposed to be guarding it. Whatever, we've got Illidan back. And Gul'dan seems to be bringing all manner of nasties with him, so we're going to take the fight to Gul'dan, to the Tomb of Sargeras, and apparently things don't shape up all too well. That's going to happen before the expansion releases, and everything sort of changes to the point where we have to recoup. A lot of key lore characters are either going to be dismayed and disheartened or potentially killed off. This is going to get crazy, guys. This is going to be pretty ridiculous, but that's the story and the setting. Gul'dan is in Aaahh, brings through demons, we have to deal with Sargeras. Now there's also a few bits and bobs around here which seem to be pulled in. We've got a raid in the Emerald Dream, the Emerald Nightmare, to try and kill Xavius, which doesn't really seem to be much to do with the Burning Legion. But okay, we've got the Nightmare there as well, but apparently Aaahh will make some form of minor appearance in a dungeon because she's after the same thing we're after, these pillars of creation which are Titan artifacts, which we're going to use to close the portal which Gul'dan opened. So we've got Sargeras, and we've got the Emerald Dream and Nightmare, and then we've also got Aaahh poking her face in there as well, meaning, you know, we might have something of N'Zoth. So the three big kind of settings for the leaks and speculations and all the, oh, give me this, that we've kind of been throwing around the last few months, they're all just thrown all together in this one expansion, Legion. So it's interesting to see they've pretty much given us what we wanted setting-wise. I just didn't think people expected to get all of this at once, but we've also got a new hero class, the Demon Hunters. Now, Demon Hunters are looking to start between 95 and 100. They don't seem entirely sure about that, but the story about Demon Hunters is that while Illidan has been brought back, he was down in that vault with his legions, with his leagues of Illidari, the very dangerous elves who were taught to hunt demons, the ones who we imprisoned along with Illidan. So they're coming back, we're going to play as them, and it doesn't really make sense for us to go and free these powerful demon hunters to help fight the Burning Legion, but oh wait, first you've got to go through Vanilla, Burning Crusade, Wrath of the Lich King, Cataclysm, Mists of Pandaria, Warlords of Draenor, and then you can actually join us at the fight with the Legion. So they seem to jump ahead quite a bit. As a note, you do get a one-time level 100 boost for any character when Legion releases. So, I mean, depending on what level the Demon Hunters start out, you probably won't be using that on them. So that's cool. Either way, the Demon Hunters seem to be using their own set of weapons called glaives. All familiar with the Warglaives of Azimuth, seems to be pretty much the same thing. It's a pair of weapons, and they happily destroy things. They will wear leather, and they are a melee class, which is kind of interesting because now we have monks, rogues, and demon hunters all filling that role. Apparently, Blizzard thought that having another leather user wasn't ideal because of the way that gear is going to work, but due to the game moving towards a more personal loot system, they felt it wasn't really too much of an issue anymore. Now, the Demon Hunters have all of their iconic abilities, including a double jump, and they apparently can unfold their wings to descend and surprise enemies, so maybe they get an automatic slow fall with whatever they want to do. Kind of interesting, some very iconic abilities, especially if you've played Heroes of the Storm. They can flip back and avoid, and they can use laser beams from their eyes and all this demonic stuff. They also get Metamorphosis, so I've heard that Demonology Warlocks are actually losing their metamorphosis, so that's kind of been taken away and given to the Demon Hunters. That's going to be their huge cooldown by the looks of things, and they only have 2 specs. They only have 1 DPS spec and 1 tanking spec, so that's going to be interesting to see how that all pans out. And it seems as though they will only be able to use glaives as weapons, but that won't matter too much because of the new artifact weapon system anyway. So every single player is going to get an artifact weapon which they'll use throughout the entire expansion. So you don't get weapon drops at all in Legion, you're stuck with this one weapon. But it's not all as bad as it kind of sounds, because these weapons are huge weapons from lore. These are Ashbringer for Retribution Paladins, Doomhammer for Enhancement Shamans. You're getting these huge powerful relics, essentially, that we've had in Warcraft lore for so long. Which is really strange. Very strange. Anyway, with these weapons in this system, you can upgrade them, so basically your progress dictates the item level of your weapon. So the more bosses you kill in raids, the higher item level you can get for your weapon, and you can unlock almost a talent system in your artifact weapon to give you bonuses to your class. So it's basically another talent system, but inside your weapon. It's like they're bringing back the Path of the Titans from way back when in Wrath of the Lich King. It looks really cool. Definitely going to be something to get a hold of and have to experience to see exactly how that's going to impact the game. But it seems to be they've got a nice fleshed out system. If you're worried about everybody running around with the exact same weapon, they also have variants of model and colour. So the Ashbringer was their example for quite a lot of the preview stuff, and you can have the typical Ashbringer, you can have a corrupted Ashbringer, which is nice and purple, you can have an Ashbringer which has been shattered and there's lightning going down it, and then they all have different colour variants as well. Some of these are going to be from different parts of the game, so I know there's one skin for each of these artifact weapons which is reserved just for PvP, and that's another system which has changed. The honour system is being revamped and almost entirely replaced, I believe. You get honour similar to Call of Duty games, actually. You basically level up in PvP. You level up your rank in PvP and you unlock talents, and then you unlock extra rows of talents, and then towards the end you basically go up into prestige, where you reset your levels and you get shiny rewards. One of those rewards is that special skin. You can also get things like mounts and other transmogrification items by the looks of things, so it's going to be, again, interesting to see how they flesh that out, and it's going to be interesting. They're finally separating PvP and PvE, because all of those talents in PvP don't work in PvE, and then that allows them to take all the PvP orientated talents out of the PvE talent system. So hopefully we'll have a lot more choice and they will be a lot more distinct than they have been in the past. But this means that I don't think we actually have any difference between PvE and PvP gear. So that's going to be one less thing to farm, maybe. PvE might actually influence PvP more than previously. We'll have to see. We will have to see. So while all that's fine and dandy, we can talk about what they want to do with the game, we can talk about what they've previewed at Gamescom, what kind of content can we expect from Legion? Now the first thing is, the pre-patch for the expansion is going to be huge. It's going to be like the invasion in Warlords of Draenor, except told much better from what we've been told. So you've got a more personal experience, you'll find all these heroes of Warcraft, and some of them may meet an untimely end, and then we can happily decide what to do with ourselves when we're picking ourselves up from being decimated by the Burning Legion. It definitely seems like we're losing that battle, the one that we go into. We get pushed back and we have to try and recoup with all of our champions. Now, speaking of champions, there is some form of a garrison system, but it's not a garrison. It's going to be called Class Orders, and it's basically a class clubhouse in that you and all your paladins, all your mages, all your warlocks will be in this one area, and that's where you do a lot of your good stuff. But there's not going to be any bank, auction house, mailbox. It's not going to be your capital city. Your capital city is in fact going to be Dalaran. More on that later. The class orders seem to be in very key locations, so paladins are underneath Light's Hope Chapel. Warlocks are actually on a different world, they're on a Legion world. world. So it could be very interesting to see what they do with this, but we do have a little bit of a follower system. They're called champions, and there's not going to be anywhere near as many of them. Blizzard said they're not creating another army. You're creating a few very powerful followers, and you can send them out on missions, but it seems to be far more personal. So hopefully they take the good things of the follower system and kind of bash out all the bad things. So, I mentioned Dalaran. Dalaran is going to be our shared faction hub, so we'll have the Horde Alliance together once again, even though we're supposedly at each other's throats. But that's cool. We'll also get the Violet Hold again. You know, you can have Dalaran without the Violet Hold. Things have changed, both for Dalaran and the Violet Hold, so hopefully it won't feel too samey, but you know, nostalgia is always a good thing. Right, guys? Raiding seems to be one of their priorities once again. We'll get 2 raids at launch, probably staggered somewhat like Heimel and Blackrock Foundry. We've got the Nightmare, the Emerald Nightmare, which is 7 bosses long, and then we've got Suramar. I'm not entirely sure what that's going to entail, but we know that we'll be facing off against Gul'dan as the last boss, and that's 10 bosses long. So that actually fits perfectly to Heimel and Blackrock Foundry, you know, 7 and 10. Probably get the second raid a little bit later, and might actually be our second tier, quote unquote, of raids. So that's going to be fun. I'll have to see what happens with that. We're going to get a few dungeons. I think there's 6 dungeons at launch. Hopefully they'll add a few more there. I know one of the dungeons is supposed to deal with Aaahh. Hopefully it doesn't fully deal with Aaahh. It'd be a little disappointing to, you know, deal with Aaahh in a dungeon. Hopefully we just kind of poke her away for a little bit and then she comes back as a raid, maybe with N'Zoth for the tier after that. Dunno, it's going to be interesting how we deal with the Burning Legion and all these other threats coming at the exact same time. But raiding and dungeons seems to be one of their strong focuses. They want to bring a lot more focus back to dungeons, apparently, so we should see a few more there, I would hope. Either way, they want to have people running dungeons a lot more than they were in Warlords of Draenor. Don't really have any specifics on how, but there's also a few system changes coming in with things like transmogrification. Transmog, you'll unlock a skin when you get an item, and you won't have to keep the skin to transmog it, so you can free up all of your bank space, sell all of those items as soon as you have the skin unlocked. If you've played Diablo 3 and know how the transmog system works in there, pretty much the exact same thing. One thing that a lot of people were concerned about with Warlords of Draenor was the profession system going forward. Apparently, Warcraft right now has the largest team working on professions that it has ever had. So hopefully we'll get a nice surprise with the way professions are handled in the next expansion, but we don't have any information on any specifics for what they have planned or what they might include. So I just want to kind of sign this off by saying this expansion might actually tie up every loose end that we've had since Warcraft 3. You know, we've got the Emerald Dream. We've never set foot in the Emerald Dream. We've never bothered to go and try fix anything in there. If the Emerald Nightmare is fixed with this raid, then that might deal with that loose end, yeah? If we deal with the Burning Legion and deal with Sargeras, or make sure Sargeras can never come back to Azeroth, that might tie up that loose end. If we deal with Aaahh, I hope we don't in this dungeon. If it's just a dungeon, that's just really frustrating. But if we do tie up Aaahh and N'Zoth at some point in this expansion, that's that loose end tied up. Well, what's next? That's pretty much all of the current lore which we haven't fully explored, kind of blown away in one expansion. And if they're killing off a lot of key lore characters, like a lot of these people, I don't imagine they'd give up their amazingly ridiculous OP weapons without, you know, a good reason. Are we truly that much of a hero right now? Does that mean that this is either the end of the World of Warcraft storyline, or are they using this as an almost blank slate? You know, if they cover everything which is not covered, if they deal with everything which is unresolved, does that then mean they can basically create whatever lore they want from there? Do we go from there? Do we rebuild the world? Do we colonize other worlds? Do we take the fight to the Burning Legion now that we know we can vanquish them? Do we free these other worlds of the Burning Legion? What happens after this if they're tying up all the loose ends? That's the most exciting part for me here. They have the potential here to have a blank slate for lore for World of Warcraft going forward, and they could tell another amazing story with the lore. They could tell the second age of Azeroth, or whatever you want to call it. Just my thoughts. Few Reddit posts going around, lots of thoughts here, there and everywhere on the internet. This is a most exciting time to be a World of Warcraft player. I just hope Legion doesn't disappoint, but it's Blizzard. We're guaranteed pretty much a fantastic game at launch anyway. Hopefully the servers don't crash. But either way, that's what we can expect in World of Warcraft Legion from what we know from the Gamescom preview and the interviews afterwards. Remember that the Q&A is actually still coming up, so we might get even more answers to work with. I'll definitely link that when it happens. So that's it for this video. If you have any questions, queries, theories, leave them down in the comments section below and we can have a good old natter down there. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave, and if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always, I will see you next time.